Hey, what's going on, everybody? Hope you guys are doing well today. It's Michael with the Real 1%, back at you guys again with another episode of Military to Civilian Transition, the game plan to success. We got my main man, Michael, here today. How you doing, bro?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Hey, not bad. Thanks for asking, man. Thanks for being here. So, let's dive in. And without further ado, the floor is going to be yours. And if you don't mind, for the listeners, give them a little background about yourself, maybe why you joined the military, where you're from, and then just lead us up to the point where you started thinking about getting out of the service.
Okay, thank you. So, joined the Army in 1988, got out in 92, came back in 94, and stayed an additional 28 years after that.
Hey, man, I ain't gonna lie, dude. I don't think I'm that old, but you went in the same year I was born, my man. So, hey, let's get it, man. You don't look that old, so I guess you didn't get treated that bad.
Oh man, it was fun. I put it to you that way. You
Okay.
know, my most memorable time was being in Germany when the wall came down and seeing all those cars coming from East Germany. So that was pretty cool.
All the Beamers, man. Let's go.
Uh, so I ended up I decided at the 32-year mark that I was going to retire. And just like everyone else, I just had to figure out what I wanted to do. I was coming out of Army Futures Command, and I retired in the middle of COVID.
Oh, wow.
And I spent my entire transition working from home. I spent my time doing SFL tap on my telephone because they weren't using Zoom or Microsoft Teams or anything. So that
Wow.
was pretty interesting. Originally from Tennessee, just decided to hang my hat up in Texas.
Okay. Not bad. Um, Man, when did you think about, not after the first stint, obviously, because you thought about getting out pretty fast, I guess, after your first rodeo, but you got back in, did your thing, did 28 more years. When did you start thinking about your exit plan?
Ran into an MEB,
Oh,
medical examination board,
okay.
and I thought I was going to end up getting put out based off of that. And from then on, that's when I looked at I need to have an exit plan because you never know what could happen.
Okay. What'd you devise as a plan? Did you have something good set in stone, or what'd that look like?
So what I decided was I knew since I was already at the 18-year mark during that time frame period, I went through all the SFL TAP classes, started working on my resume, and just trying to change my mind frame because I knew when I exited, just like I exited the last time, it was a total different world. So I decided, you know what, I'll get my resume together. I'll wait and see what happens. They came back and said, no, we're going to keep you on active duty and retain you. But then after that, fast forward, I'm like I think I was probably at 24, 25-year mark. And that's when the Army decided they were going to do a drawdown. And I had to make a decision then. And I was out at Microsoft. So the Army sent me out to Microsoft to do training with industry. But
Okay.
my year group as an officer at that time was being looked at to actually have us mandatory retire. So while I was out at Microsoft, I said, you know what? Here's another thing I can look at as far as my transition and take all this in. And then when I decide to make my exit, I should be good to go.
How'd you get hooked up with the TWI?
Greg got in contact with my branch manager.
Okay.
One of the things I discovered when I was on active duty, when I transitioned from being enlisted to being an officer, I said, you know what? I got to take advantage of all opportunities. So when the chance came up to do anything different that was out of the ordinary or staying on my own career path, I did it. So when I
Okay.
found out about training with industry, put my packet in, and went from there.
How was the experience with Microsoft?
Oh, it was outstanding. It really was. It opened my eyes to a lot of things in the civilian sector as far as our human resources.
Oh, so you got on with Microsoft and did something in regards to human resources. You didn't like have to go to IT. They put you in a program and got you up to speed on the civilian side of that thing.
Yes.
Okay, that's not bad. They had I was food service in the military, and they had TWI for food service too. So it's like it's out there. And props to you for taking advantage, because I was just had my boy Rob on here, and we were talking about he was saying what he would do, and something that you just said yourself is take advantage of everything that the military has to offer when you're in. Like
Yes.
people pay thousands of dollars to get the stuff that we get for free to get paid to go do. So props to you for doing that. Did Let's rewind a little bit. So you got the Microsoft thing going. Now you did a lot of years in the military, and I'm sure you got your own perspective or outlook on this. But like, what did the sick call process look like for you? What did the medical records look like process? And like the whole, did you have a VA claim before you got out, or was that sort of foreign?
No, I had one before I got out. But once again, because I went through the MEB process, I kind of understood what I had to do once I got ready to transition. So I had a copy of my medical records. Once I went through the MEB, I got a copy of my medical records, and I started combing through them then. And
Okay.
that's when I realized if the Army's going to tell me I have to leave, I need to start thinking about that over the next couple of years. So I started prepping my records. I made sure I went to sick call, made sure I got seen for certain things, and I didn't mess around with it because so many of our veterans, how can I say this? They don't focus on themselves. You,
Absolutely.
you, you
They're
know, you.
worried about the mission at hand, especially
Mhm,
someone like you. You're in a higher position of, I mean, everyone is, but it seems to me, and I've talked to several veterans, but the ones that have higher rank are the ones that don't even take care of themselves, like Sergeant Major, Full-Bird
mhm.
Colonel, whatever. And those are the ones that have absolutely nothing in their records.
And that's true. That's true. So
So you had the light switch come on. Did you have mentorship, or like where you just kind of just did it? Like I had an aha moment, like, you know what, I got to start planning, man, because I'm getting out of this one day.
I would say it was a little bit of both.
Okay.
You hear people talk about it, and you also just go out. One great thing now is you got YouTube. So you can watch all those videos and watch people and listen to them talk about their transition and what happens when you go through the process with VA. When I got
Absolutely.
ready to get out, the biggest thing I could have done was, well, the best thing I could have done was I pulled my own medical records. I developed an Excel spreadsheet. I started listing everything on there that had happened to me while I was in. I based it off of the problem list, and then I did a deep dive based off of that. So I had the opportunity to remember we're in the middle of COVID. So I'm sitting at home. So
Right.
I had to take advantage of that.
Good thing that you did, because you could have just sat there and twiddled your thumbs and you could have got out and you would have been set up for failure. So, hey, be proactive rather than reactive, right? Like no one told you to
Yes.
do that. You just took it upon yourself. And guess what? No one is going to, for the most part, like what, 90% of the time, no one's going to tell you to get your stuff in order. They're worried about going to formation. They're worried about going to the range. They're worried
Mhm.
about running the shops. Like it's not their fault. They're just not turned on to that mindset of getting out the military yet. So, um, do you think that you were late on anything, or you think you were right on time as regards to your time frame? Did you give yourself enough time to prep and have that plan set in place?
I gave myself enough time to prep.
Okay.
Once I pulled all of my medical records in and I just started going through everything, the best thing anyone can do is remember this is your claim. This is not the VSO's claim. This is
Absolutely.
yours. So even if you have a great VSO who tells you send everything to me, let me go through it and come back to you and tell you what I think you should claim, go back through that yourself because your VSO is not going to be with you when you go in for the CMP exam.
Right.
And sometimes the CMP examiner, hats off to them, but they're so overwhelmed, they're going to miss certain things.
Absolutely.
They're not going to ask you certain questions. And they should have gone in and read your medical records, but they're human. But if you're able to point things out to them that they don't ask you, it makes a huge difference.
Absolutely. Like they're over, like you said, overwhelmed. They probably got like 10 more people behind you if I got a morning appointment. And yeah, and then what people don't understand is whoever did your a CMP exam, they're not the ones going to rate you. They're just writing the notes, and then they're going to send
Hmm.
it off to someone else in the VA. So that's why it's so important. Like you said, tell these people what's really is going on. That way they can make a note of it and you can get taken care of. So did you were you satisfied when you got out this, like when you got your MEB and your VA rating? Was everything good to go, or did you have to
Yeah.
double back? Everything was good.
No, everything was good.
Okay, not bad. So, what was one thing that you might have struggled with the most when you got out of service? Like, did you have a hard time turning off the military in your head, or what that look like?
I'm gonna
Oh
be
man,
listen, I'm gonna be honest with you. It's the camaraderie. That's
absolutely.
the biggest thing. And what I tried to do was by coming on ABK, we have a veteran ERG. That's what helps a whole lot because transitioning, as much as we like to think it does not happen overnight. And sometimes it takes years to get that done the proper way. Because just like you didn't join the military and get rid of all of your civilian thought process, it's the same thing when you transition out,
Right.
you know.
What are those abbreviations that you were saying?
Oh,
Yeah.
Activision Blizzard King, the
What's
company
that?
that I work for. That's the
Uh,
gaming company. Call
All
of
right.
Duty.
Oh,
Well,
Activision. Okay, I
yeah.
saw. Yes. Okay, I was trying to piece it together. I looked at your LinkedIn. I was like, okay, Activision Blizzard. I said, I don't know what this is, but it's got like gaming characters on your like a thing. So, okay, so let's. What do you want to go to next? Did you have a lot of time in between your transition until you got a job? Did you have that? Did you have a job lined up at Microsoft when you got out? What'd that look like?
So when I got ready to transition, a couple of things I did. I became a part of Full Block,
Okay.
which is a nonprofit that, to me, it's the SFL tap on steroids.
Okay.
Uh, and they bring you in. They do many classes. They bring organizations in to talk to you about transitioning and the job market. The other thing I also did was I participated in HOH, Hiring Our Heroes.
Okay.
Now, the funny thing that happened to me was I was inside of Hiring Our Heroes, and I was supposed to go to EA Sports and do my fellowship there. But I was going to be their first person. So being a basic military person, I was getting a little anxious because we was already almost to the end of the period for us to accept people. And I said, you know what, I got to go out here and find my own thing. So I went out and found my own fellowship. And I won't tell you who the company is, but things didn't go the way I thought they were going to go. And it
Okay.
was nothing personal against them. It's just that, like some companies, when you don't have a full cohort of people and understand what you're supposed to do with those veterans, you can kind of get lost. And that's what happened to me. Kind of got lost. I was working remote and everything. And I kind of made it up in my mind. I said, if I had a chance to do this all over again, I'd go with a more mature model because they seem to have everything the way it should be.
Okay.
So I finished up that, ended up getting a mentor through Veterati, and she coached me. She taught me a few things about my resume, talked to me about transitioning. And the next thing I knew, she was like, hey, I know you're interviewing for different jobs. Why don't you come over here and help us build out our veteran initiatives over at Activision Blizzard? And that's how I ended up here, which means I tell any transitioning veteran, you need to have people that you know that are already out there. Do not make all of your LinkedIn contacts military people. Make them other civilians too. They will help you.
Absolutely. What so EA Sports, it was in the game, right? It's in the game.
Yes.
Yeah, man. That's classic, man. Old school Madden and stuff like that,
Hmm.
man. You got it. So looking back on it, if you would you do anything different, or you think it seems like you planned everything pretty good. You had a grasp on it. Did you're figuring stuff out, doing your own due diligence and stuff like that. Would if you had to talk to yourself, what now from what you know, or to soldiers that are in right now, what would you tell them?
Honestly, it's all about planning. It really is. I honestly feel like when you first join the military, you need to be laying out a plan of just in case you have to get out.
Dude, I just said that on 2 episodes ago. We just said that. We said whatever you get into, you got to have an exit plan. That's what everyone does in business. That's what successful people do. It's no different in the military. I guess I had a little bit of one. I said I wanted to join the military and then I was going to use my GI Bill. Okay, that's somewhat of an exit plan because that's a valid option if you do your time and get out. But that may not suffice, man, depending on where you're at or what type of lifestyle you have. But absolutely, man. Have a plan, have your medical records, and just have everything in order, man. Like
Hmm.
no better way to put it. Simple and sweet. Uh, so when you went to how'd you like Activision when you first got on? Was it something new for you? Was it challenging? Was it different?
So, um, being in the remote world, that was the most challenging thing. Although I was remote while I was on active duty my last year because of COVID, but trying to do remote work in a total different environment, that can be challenging because I don't know everyone the same way I knew them in the military. So
Okay.
now you're trying to build relationships with people through a virtual way. And it's not difficult, it's just different.
Okay.
You know, you can't just show up at people's offices. You got to show up in the virtual world saying, hey, I'm new to the company. I'd like to talk to you about a few things, you know. And I think that's what makes it so hard for anyone leaving active duty. And if you're used to going in every day and doing work, and now you're trying to pivot into the remote world, it is not easy.
No, and especially unless you're like in IT and have all the certs
Hmm.
and have a job that's already going to probably be remote. So I don't know, but probably like you said, the whole thing with just not being around people too is something that affects people in a negative way. You're used to being around a squadron or a battalion of people, a company of people, hundreds of soldiers at a time, and then you
Hmm.
go to being by yourself, like isolation at its finest, right? So, do you think that bothered you at all at first?
Initially, it did, because I'm human, and
Yeah.
the interaction with soldiers, you can't beat that anywhere. When you talk to individuals who are on active duty, the first thing they'll tell you is whenever they transition from being in command to being on staff, the biggest issue they have is they no longer have soldiers there around. They're on
Okay.
staff working for someone else. So that's huge. So now imagine when you transition out of the military and it's just you, unless you find some other veterans that you can hang out with. By the way, if it's in the virtual world, that totally changes the game.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, you gotta have people that you can like reach out and touch, man. Like are gonna be there for you, that are gonna help you, that are gonna guide you in the right direction. So, hey, how'd you learn about Veterati and Four Block? Did you just do research and find that word of mouth, or what that look like?
No, it was all about research. You know,
Okay,
there are so many great organizations out there that are trying to help veterans. That is crazy.
absolutely,
And because of that, I feel like we have the tools. It's just sometimes we don't know what we don't know,
right,
which is the reason why, once again, that last year while you're on active duty, you have to take advantage of that. Now, I will tell you, I just had a hiring fair at a post, and I was shocked at how many veterans, well, they weren't veterans, they were still on active duty, but they were young service members coming up to me saying, "Yeah, I'm going to be back from this deployment over in Europe, and then I'll come back and I'll process out in 90 days." And I was like, "Hey, I, I I understand the mission is important, but that's going to be kind of hard for you. So here's some things I think you need to do because you're not in control of that. If they tell you have to go, you have to go.
right.
But you still have to plan that out, even when you're going to do a 90-day exit."
Yeah, because 90 days isn't too long. You work in the Donzas, you work in the holidays, and the weekends you're not clearing posts, so you don't really give yourself too much time. And if you don't have that initial claim in, I think you can do it like a year out. But if you don't have that initial claim in and you give yourself 90 days, you might be out of the military and it might be a little bit harder for you, or you might just not be able to have a devised plan in that short of time frame. Because if you're in Europe and you're a young soldier, I mean, I did 8 years, and it's like you don't really think about. I mean, I had a job lined up and stuff like that, but you don't know about what happens behind B, or C door. If
Hmm.
door A fails, what's door B going to look like? Door C for yourself and your family, because especially coming right off a deployment, you're going to come right back, and everyone's going to be worried about going to work, and you might be the only one getting ready to get out. So, when did you find out that no one was coming to save you? When did you find that out? Did you find that out early in life? Did you find it out in the military? Like, because that's the truth, man. No one's coming, dude. Four Block and Veterati aren't coming to knock on your door before you get out. You know what I'm saying? Like, you had to
Yeah.
do the research to find out.
I'm gonna be honest. I found out when I hit the MEB process. That's when it really hit me that okay, I've spent all this time in, but I'm about to exit, and it's gonna be a military discharge. You know, everyone. I won't say everyone. That's a generality. A lot of people think that hey, just because you're at the 17, 18-year mark, you may be safe. That's not always the case. There are some people who've gotten put out over medical, and they were that close. So for me, that's what I thought about that a whole lot, and I said, wait a minute, there's life after the army, and if I don't prepare myself, I'm doing myself a disservice. And I didn't want to be the person who gets out of the military who has a bad taste in their mouth because you don't promote anything positive when people talk to you, and that happens. And it's part of it is on the military too. You know, you can't expect people to be happy about their time in service if you don't treat them well.
That's true. Yeah, absolutely. What So when you got out doing all the SFL taps online, what was the biggest struggle minus the isolation? I mean, it's kind of wild to think about. You just sitting at home doing this, checking the block. Like you didn't clear CIF or nothing like that from the house, obviously. But like the main things that's going to help you get ready that the military offers, you're just doing it from your phone or whatever. So what was the biggest challenges, or what do you think that they needed to change to make it better?
Recognizing that the environment has changed. You know, as I was sitting, well, I wasn't sitting because I was at home on my phone. When I was watching the PowerPoint deck, because it was next slide this, next slide that, I feel like you the environment was remote during that time frame period. Yes, we were going back to the office eventually. That's happening right now. But because we were in the middle of that, maybe the pivot should have been about, hey, here's some current issues that are going on inside of the workplace, and you all are getting out in the middle of this. We didn't need
Yeah.
we don't need a class on how to dress for success in the middle of COVID.
Yeah. Oh yeah. All you gotta do is have a shirt and a tie. You don't even need
Hmm.
to have pants on because you're gonna get on a webcam and do an interview. So it don't even you only need
Hmm.
half the outfit, man. But
Hmm.
did you ever do you know anyone or did you do executive level taps? Did they have was that an option for you? Because you
That's what I did.
Oh, you did? Okay. So
Hmm.
I heard about that first when I talked to Orlando. He was a retired command sergeant major. I didn't even, obviously, I only made it to, E5, E6. I didn't know that they had that. But from the looks of it, from the sounds of it, it wasn't really nothing that special to begin with. So,
No, it was not what I thought it was going to be. Once again, because of all the research I had completed already, and at the same time, I had already got in contact with Hire Heroes USA. I had my resume already, so my focus was on what else can they teach me, not this is all I have.
right. I mean, being in that position, did you feel like I mean, they were just kind of doing it to check the box because it seemed like from other senior leaders in the military that did the same program that you did, it just seemed like you're left on your own. Even as an E5 clearing or E6, whatever you are, you'd be like, "Oh, you're good. You're an NCO. You're an officer. You can go ahead and take care of that." When in all reality, they should have someone there. Kind of, it doesn't really have to be holding your hand, but kind of like you said, prepping you for what the reality of everyone. They talk about resume, they talk about this, they talk about that. But like you said, they don't talk about, hey, these are the struggles that veterans are having finding a job. These are the jobs that are hot. These are the jobs that are this. These are the jobs that are that.
No, they don't, and I think that's where we come in at. Those of us who have already transitioned, I look at it like they say, you never leave a person on the battlefield.
Absolutely.
Same concept. We cannot leave our fellow brothers and sisters out there when they transition out and think, hey, they're good to go, because they're not. You know, transitioning is hard enough by itself. But if you have other things externally that are going on, let's say, for example, look at what's going on with the housing market. That's
Absolutely.
extremely hard. Look at what's going on when you transition out and you're trying to get a job because you need medical insurance for your family.
Yeah. You could go bankrupt real quick. You might not
Hmm.
especially if you don't have a job coming in or like absolutely, man. The BAH is stopping, the base pay is stopping,
Hmm.
all that's stopping. So yeah, man, it's a harsh reality. I mean, I faced it myself and went through the struggles of it. I had a good job at first, but then got my girlfriend pregnant at the time and I decided to come back and try to make it work like locally. That way I wasn't like, I was already used to being in the military, but I didn't have kids or nothing like that when I was
Hmm.
in. So, but you see the people that are in, and it sucks, man, to be in the military to have a family. Let's just be honest. If in a
Hmm.
time of war, come on, man, you're always gone. You got to drop your kids off at daycare or school at 6 o'clock in the morning before PT. You got to go PT. You got to work all day. It's a tough life, and when we get out, it can be even tougher than that because at least when you're in the military, like your hierarchy of needs are already met. You know where you're going to go.
Hmm.
You know where you're going to sleep. You got food. You got shelter. You don't have to really think about none of that stuff. But when you get out, you got to think about everything, man.
Hmm. And which is why I also tell transitioning veterans, know what it is you want to do.
Absolutely.
The military will teach you to be a jack of all trades, but they will also, you'll get your own MOS, or AFSC, or whatever you want to call it, but you're still broadened a whole lot more than most civilian people are. So figure out what it is you want to do. And the number one thing that bothers me when I talk to a veteran and they tell me, well, I just want to lead people. And I'm like, oh, that doesn't exist in corporate America the way you think it does. There's
Yeah.
no,
No
there's no,
platoon sergeant. No platoon sergeant at McDonald's, man. Like
you
shit. If
know,
there was, I might sign up for it, man. Just get. Hey, where's your leave packet? Hey, Hey, man.
yeah,
Hurt feelings report. Fill this out.
yeah.
Yeah,
So,
man. You're right.
which is why I think taking skills inventory tests and different other assessments kind of make you figure out where you want to land, and you utilize those. You know, we we have a lot of tools in front of us that we need to take advantage of, but you have to know where you want to go. Because if you don't know where you want to go, any road to take you there, and that's not a good thing.
Nah, man, you don't know where you're gonna end up on that. You might
Mhm.
like you change your mind or get lost in the process. But what's some tools that you use minus like the TWI? Did you use anything else that the military or the VA offered on your time out? Did you use like a VA loan? Did you use the school benefits? What about?
So I did use the VA home loan.
Okay,
Um, Great thing, you can't beat that. You don't have to worry about PMI,
absolutely.
you know, and the interest rates, of course, they're not as good as now as they were 2 years ago, but still, you can't beat it. The I would say the biggest thing behind the VA home loan is that fee that you pay, and you'll pay that fee unless you actually have a percentage from the VA. You know,
Yeah,
and then,
the funding fee. If you're
Mhm.
100% permanent total, it's waived. So that's
Oh
another
no,
reason why.
you don't have to be 100%.
Oh, it's only disabled. It's only disabled.
You can be 10%,
Oh, my bad. Sorry.
and they'll, yeah,
Hey, even better. So
yeah.
you get it waived that
Hmm.
if you're service connected. Then
Yes.
okay.
So that the other thing is take advantage of the other organizations. The VA has a lot of great programs. You know, the thing I realize is we focus more on the VA for the piece dealing with our ailments, but they have a lot more going on out there. When they send those emails, talk about these are the different programs, they talk about jobs, any of the new initiatives, take advantage of those because that's why they are there. And if we don't take advantage of those things, it's just like any other organization. The question comes to, well, why are we doing this if no one's using it?
Prime, yeah, absolutely, man. And a lot of veterans aren't using what's given to them by the VA or by the school benefits or any even the home loan. People might not even know they can get a home loan. You can get a multifamily four unit place, and you could set yourself and your family up for success if you did it the right way. So,
Mhm.
um, absolutely, man. What So when did you think you're going to get into the video game space at all? Like, did you ever like that? Cause you were on with EA or, is that something that you like to do or
So,
what?
so like I said, I didn't get a chance to get on with EA because I went
Okay.
with another company. But the video game era, or how can I say this? The video game industry wasn't really on my mind, mainly because what I was thinking was I wanted to do HR, be a HRBP, which is what I did out at Microsoft. That is really what was on my mind. But when the my mentor said, "Look, we need help. I know you like helping veterans. I know you dislike recruiting because you're experienced in the Army," which is true. And I tell everyone, it was not the experience with the people who are going to transition from being civilians to being soldiers. It was just the pressure they put on you when you're in USAREC. And I understand why the pressure is there, but you're still human, and some of the things that the way things go at certain times, it can be very hectic in recruiting. So I had decided I don't want to have anything else to do with that type of life. But she told me, look, civilian recruiting is not like military recruiting. And oh, by the way, you're going to be helping veterans. So why not come over and help us do that? And that's how I kicked everything off. And it was the best decision I made. You know, the opportunity to go out and talk to transitioning service members, not about just coming to our company, but about transitioning, period, and some of the pitfalls that are out there. Um, you ever use Skill Syncer?
No, never heard of it.
So Skill Syncer right now, it's an AI that allows you to put your resume and then you place the actual job description out there for the job you're looking at.
Okay.
And it gives you like a bandwidth of, hey, this is where we think you're strong at in your resume. This is where your resume needs some tweaking. And it's free for veterans. Now there's Job Scan out there and there's Res Runner, but as far as I know, they're not free right now. But that is what I tell every transitioning veteran. Use those tools. When you're looking at a role, use those tools to tweak your resume to make sure it lines up with that actual job that you're looking at. We tend to focus on the soft skills more than we focus on the hard skills, but you can't do that because when you look at most job descriptions, they're looking for certain things that you have. They'll do the caveats and say, okay, we're looking for a person who's led people for the past 7 years. We're looking for a person who can think outside the box. But you can't prove those things until you get into the organization. So
That's
then
true.
they start looking at the hard skill sets. I'll take a person, if you're looking at trying to get in the video game industry and you want to be an associate um, computer programmer when it comes to video games, you need C sharp, you need C++. Without those, you're not going to get there.
Yeah, you're not even gonna get in the door. That's
Mhm.
prerequisite, right? You need to
Yes.
have that before even coming to bat.
Yes.
So when you talk to veterans on what you're doing at Activision, what do they say that they're struggling with most is if they open up to you? What are they letting you know?
They don't know what they want to do.
Wow, man, because they're getting to because they're in a position that they're comfortable. They don't need to know what they want to do. They just know they could show up the next day to PT and everything's going to be good and get off. You
Hmm.
know what I'm saying? They're not really like you said. It all goes back to exit plan, right?
Hmm.
And planning, and there, like you said, it all comes down to planning. But so for someone that might be interested in the video game industry, minus those certificates, what do you think they would have to do to be successful if they're coming in? If they're coming in, like probably, I would say network because I don't really know what else. But go ahead.
Find out which industry you want to go into and figure out where you want to land in that industry. One of the great things I like about our team is when we're talking to veterans, the first thing we say is you don't have to play video games to work at our company. You don't have to build video games to work at our company because we're just like any other organization. We have finance, we have HR, we
Right.
have talent acquisition, we have legal, we have all the other things that other companies have. So look at our company just like you would look at any other company. And when you go out to our website, if you don't know how to build video games, look at the other areas and you'll be okay. But at the same time, look at what we call the player profile. Look at what they're asking for in that particular role. In your mind, you may be thinking, hey, I can do those things. But I'm looking at your resume and the resume doesn't speak to that.
Right. Doesn't and not matching up, and then
Yeah.
people aren't looking at a resume for too long. So if that doesn't match up, you're probably going to be out the door, man.
Well, I'm gonna be honest with you, not looking at it for too long. When it goes into the applicant tracking system, the applicant tracking system using AI, and
Absolutely.
and that AI decides where you're gonna land. And once it looks at your resume, and if it doesn't meet a few things inside of the job description, it's done. It gets kicked to the curb. So and then it focuses on those people who actually have this skill set. And that's where we have an issue because we make our resumes look so military related. And we think that people are going to read our resumes because we're a veteran and it has the military stuff on there. And I'm like, no, they're not. And how did I find that out? When I spent my time out at Microsoft, I talked to the talent professionals out there, and I had only one tell me if I get a resume from a person and I recognize that they're a veteran, I would take their resume to some friends of mine who've been on active duty. And that was only
Out of how many people did you talk to
when.
when you talked when you talked to the talent acquisition people
Oh,
at Microsoft? You talked to a handful of people, I'm sure, right?
yeah, I talked to more than one because
Yeah,
I needed to get I needed to be able to assess that,
absolutely.
you know.
Yeah, man, it's crazy that some people think that just by being a military veteran, you're on a high horse and people owe you something when you get out. But that's another common denominator of today's conversation is no one cares that you were in, man. They don't care if you were a sergeant major. They're not standing at parade rest at Microsoft for you. And even not even at McDonald's, they're not going to do it. Sorry, they're not going. They don't care if you walk on the grass. You know what I'm saying? Like none of that stuff matters, man. But I guess it seems like that's one thing. I don't know if you got. I'm sure you got military friends. I've got military friends. We all do, right? They have a hard time turning that off and just becoming who they are, the next chapter of their life, or whatever you want to call it, right? So, how do you think someone could? What do you think best practices is for someone to just like swallow their? It's easy to say swallow your pride. Don't think you're. It's easier said than done. But what's something that you might have done, or some things that you did to just turn that off?
Open up your I would say your when it comes to people that you interact with people who are just civilians. Don't always hang around with all veterans because I'll tell you what happens when veterans hang around with veterans. We only talk about the military.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh
we
yeah.
talk about what we did when we were in. Well, when you start hanging out with people who are non-military, you start hearing about other parts of life and what their career was like as they climbed the corporate ladder.
Right. A total different perspective than just
Mhm.
going to formation for 20 years or something like that.
Yep.
So what's the most rewarding thing about your job that you have now? What do you think?
It's helping veterans, and every time they get a role inside of our company, I get excited. You know, our Hiring Our Heroes program has been very successful. And when I have the opportunity to talk to them, it just it gives me energy. Of course, we work remote, but we do these Zoom calls, and I can see the light that comes on in their eyes as they're working through our company and they're talking to different people, and they're like, "Oh, okay, I never thought about that. Okay, I get that now." And part of that is because when we designed our HOH program, we do our weekly meeting with all of our fellows, and we do that based off of the curriculum that I got from 4 Block. And it talks about transitioning, and we read different papers, and I try to get them to understand that, hey, you got to think past the military. Do some serious thoughts about where you're going to be within 5 years. Do some soul searching on what you want to do and what your why is.
Uh,
Because your why has been, I serve the nation.
right.
Well, guess what? That's done.
Yeah, you got to find a deeper why. Yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely. Because that's what's going to keep pushing you on to the next level and not letting you give up. But it's hard to find it sometimes. You got to really dig deep, man. I mean, honestly, right? I feel like I struggle with sometimes. I was like, man, I'm working these dead end jobs. I'm getting paid or whatever. No one cares. It's not really something fulfilling that I really want to do for the rest of my life. But I feel like I found it with sort of doing this podcast, essentially, of having people share their stories. That way we can help each other. Like you said, no one left behind was how we
Hmm.
served in the military. Why is it change? You know what I mean? Like, why
Yeah.
is it?
I don't. I think part of it is it takes us a little time to unwrap our head around what we've dedicated our life to. It it seems as if, this is just me talking.
Yeah.
We assume that the longer you've been in, the harder it is for you to transition. But I'm just going to be honest with you. It doesn't matter how long you've been in, because if you've been in 3+ years, and 2 years is probably the minimum you can join for the Army, I know for sure. But your mindset has changed over that time frame period. So now you're trying to come out back into corporate America, and you're trying to become a civilian again. And it may sound like it's easy, but it's not. You have developed a bond with people that you never knew existed, and you may never see them again over the rest of your life. But I promise you, when you see things on TV, when you roll into that VFW, if you go there, or when you're at the airport, or you're anywhere, you're going to see someone that has served, and you get that warm and fuzzy feeling on the inside. You
Yeah,
know,
talk to them. Go. Someone have a Vietnam hat
yes.
or OIF or OEF. Hey, what's
Hmm.
up? Thanks for serving. Hey, appreciate you getting taken care of by the VA. Nah,
Hmm.
strike a conversation, see how they're
Hmm.
doing, man. Like we never knew each other. We're on here talking like we know each other just because we shared that commonality of being in the service, man. It just how it
Yes.
goes. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
and like you said, you'll always have that. So something you got to sort of use to your advantage. Don't let it go to waste when you get out. Don't let the companionship, don't let the camaraderie go out the window because it can if you don't. You got to be the glue, man. It takes two to tango. So keep it up and just keep going after it. But you're right though. But it doesn't matter if you're in the Army for 2 weeks or 2 years or 22 years
Hmm.
because it's all about your planning. Someone could be a sergeant major, but they don't have a good plan, or you could have someone that studied Warren Buffett for 4 years on YouTube and goes into the finance world and makes it. You just never know what's going to happen, man.
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought that up. So I was on one of Michael Quinn's videos. This was right before I was transitioning out, and he brought up a good point about a person who's senior. And he said he had someone to send a resume to him, and he read it, and he said, "You put down here that you were a VP. A VP of what? Because we don't have VPs in the Army." You know, he said, "The point I'm trying to make is, when you tell corporate America you were a VP, you're going to have to talk that VP language."
Yeah.
And
Whole
guess what?
different jargon. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes,
Yeah.
do you know what a profit and loss statement is? No, you don't. It's not even possible because we don't focus on that in the military. All we know
Not
is
3161, man. What you know, man? They know
yeah.
it's totally different, dude.
hmm
Absolutely.
You know, so I think for a lot of seniors, it is harder for them to hear a bunch of no's, and I get it. You don't like the fact that employers are not recognizing your skill sets, but you got to realize something. They will recognize your skill set if it makes sense to them in corporate America language. So that's the reason why we have to just completely change our minds on when we're writing a resume. You can take your resume once again, skill sinker, res runner, job scan. If you run it through one of those against a corporate America job and you still got all your military jargon in there, you can get up to 100%. You're probably going to end up in 10 to 15% because
Yeah,
it's just not going to match up, you know. But don't get disheartened. Don't give up. You're just like every other veteran who has transitioned out. You run into the same thing. You know, I just look at it like it's a whole new world.
it is.
So embrace it. And guess what? You're going to have to meet them halfway. They'll take the time out to meet you halfway, but you got to meet them also. You can't expect them to take your resume with all that military jargon in it and say, hey, hiring manager, check this out. Because the hiring manager, 9 times out of 10, is going to say, I don't know what any of this crap means.
Yeah,
No.
maintain and establish a DFAC and this for this much money with this much. What? Like, what'd you
Mhm.
just say? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So another thing I would tell people, I didn't get a chance to use it because I wasn't aware of it at the time. Candorful.
What's that?
Candorful, it sets you up with doing interviews. They allow you to
Okay.
do mock interviews with people who've already transitioned and people who are in corporate America. And we need that because the only interview we done was when we joined the military and we sat down with the recruiter. And maybe I considered a panel interview when you go to the promotion board.
That's it, man. Go to the board, dude. You're getting
hmm
grilled in class A's and you're getting, you know what I'm saying? That you're not doing that in the civilian world. You're not
hmm
going to sit in front of 3, 4 first sergeants and a sergeant major and get glued to the table. So,
Yeah. And they're not asking you what I like to call situational questions. You know, they're not asking you open-ended fact-finding questions. They're asking you questions that come from a manual and you regurgitate those back to them.
right,
When you go into these interviews, these hiring managers or these recruiters, they're asking you, tell me what you did and tell me how you did it and tell me the impact you made on the organization.
right. Yeah,
You
it's not just going to be FM 21-20
know,
the answer.
no.
You got to dig a little bit deeper, man.
Yeah.
Woman.
Which is why
So, go ahead.
that's which the reason why I love Amazon's STAR method. Situation, task, action, result. You cannot beat that. And so many times we have that. It's inside of our evaluations, but we don't know how to pull it out. So you'll see so many. For me, I've seen resumes, and I'm like, I know that's an evaluation bullet.
Copy and paste, man. That's all.
Yes,
Just
yes,
get your
yeah.
all your NCOERs, the best
hmm
bullets or OER, and put it all in paper, man.
hmm
You could
You know.
tell the absolutely military writing and civilian writing are totally different, man.
hmm So if you use that method, does it take time? Yes. Writing a resume is not easy. You will spend about as much time as looking for a job as you would writing a resume. But the good thing is, if you put 80% of your time into writing a resume and you come up with a very quality product, that's going to pay dividends for you in the end. Once you get that to where you need it to be, then you start working on your interview skills and start pulling data from your resume because between your resume, your LinkedIn profile, and what you're saying in an interview, a good hiring manager or recruiter, they've already done their due diligence and they want to hear you be able to speak to your resume. So don't go into the interview and just go off into a rabbit hole, which I've seen that happen. Don't do that. Focus focus on the question that they ask you and follow up with any questions that you may have. And you and I'm speaking from personal experience
Yeah,
because I know
absolutely.
what my first couple of interviews were about and what they were like, and I had to say, pull back and say, wow, I didn't really answer that question.
Just went off on a whole nother tangent
Hmm.
that they have nothing to do
Yes.
with it, but it sounded good. But yeah, but then you had that aha moment, like, what? I'm not even talking about what they asked me, man.
Exactly. And it happens, which is another reason why when you finish with your interviews, follow back up with that recruiter. Even if they tell you that you did not get the role, ask them for some points on your interview. So that way you can show up in the right way for your next interview.
Yeah, and they show that you're diligent and trying to, be proactive on your status. So they might keep you in the queue for the next interview or the next job available. But you made great points because I did the same thing. And it's like when you guys and girls go and interview for these jobs out there, learn about the place that you're going to go interview for. So you have that background. That way you can spit some of that information back out to the people that are interviewing. That way they know that you're interested and ask questions that other people don't ask. I've had job interviews, I've asked questions that I didn't think that were that amazing. Like, what's one thing that you've kept you in the firm for this long, or something like that, and then they said, "Wow, no one's ever even asked that." It's not
Mhm.
rocket science. They're like, "Wow, you're actually engaged, asking questions." So I feel like that's kind of important as well.
It is. It's very important. They want to know what you want to know about them. Don't turn it into just a one-way conversation. Make it two-way. And if you can find out who's going to be on your hiring panel, go to LinkedIn.
Absolutely, dude.
Check out what they've been doing. Find out information about them and be able to ask those questions, you know, because it means something to them. Because like you said earlier, it shows them that hey, you're willing to take the time out to find out things about me
Right,
and figure out where we can connect because connections are huge. It's not like in the military, you can PCS from one base to the next and you're still wearing a uniform. So you don't really have to establish too much of a camaraderie with them. You already have it because you're in a uniform.
right.
Corporate America, yeah, you're gonna have to build that relationship up.
Yeah, they might think that you a threat sometimes too when you get around colleagues just because you're in the military. I've had that happen too, and it's like I'm here to do my job and support my family, man. That's all. I'm not trying to take anyone's. I'm in Dubai. I'm not here to take jobs. I'm here to get paid. I'm not really here to, hey, get out of here. You're going home. But no, man, it's all great points. I feel like this has been a good deep dive into like just the interview process and stuff like that because, like you said, ACAP's not setting you up with mock interviews. Hey, we're going to have some executives in here today or whatever, or some veterans that have been out that are successful in this corporate America world. Let's have them in and have this mock board or something like interview. But you got to take it upon yourself at the end of the day. Use that program. What was the program again that you said for the interview?
Canderful. Sorry, Canderful.
Handful. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. You get on there and get online with somebody or veterati 4 block and just like
Hmm.
you have to get exposure no matter what it is, right?
Yes.
Like you have to get exposure. It doesn't matter what you do. If you want to be a pro athlete, you got to have. It doesn't matter. You want to be a good soldier. You still have to get exposure. You got to shoot, move, communicate, do good PT. March a formation, lead troops. Like you got to have
Mhm.
that exposure, man. So it's no different when you guys and girls get out. Don't lose that. Like I feel like for me personally, I lost a lot of at first when I was going through the tough times. I lost drive. I lost what I was capable of doing because I was getting jobs that paid $13 an hour. But why did I get my resume straight and then I got a job for 6 figures working overseas? I knew I was capable of doing it, but sometimes you lose that touch because you're not at your full potential at that very moment. So don't lose hope. Don't lose sight. Just keep trucking when the times get tough because it's not an easy task. Like Big Mike said, when you get out, it's not going to be easy. It doesn't matter what rank you were, but you can get through it with the help, with your network, with these foundations and these groups that are here to help veterans. It's just not really widely put on CNN or Fox News. Hey, sign up for 4 block, man. Don't 22's a day. 22 a day is not too many. Sign up for 4 block. Sign up for EBV. Sign up for TWI before you're out. Too late, So how would a soldier get in touch with you or a veteran or whatever the case may be about the hiring our is the hiring our heroes program only for people that are still in?
Yes, it's only for
Okay.
transitioning service members.
Well, how would can you touch a little bit about that if someone wanted to get involved and how long the program is and stuff like that?
So it's a 12-week program. The great thing is as a transitioning service member, once you get your chain of command approval, it's nested underneath the Skill Bridge program
Okay.
because you got other companies who do more than hiring our heroes. Some of them have their own Skill Bridge, but once you get that approval from your chain of command, you reach out to hire our heroes and let them know you got the approval, and you start working that process. The key to it is, once again, you have to know what you want to do. I've seen so many resumes from hiring our heroes. Of course, they're coming from the service member that are so generic. But I still do my due diligence. I reach out to them and I let them know, hey, I need to know what you want to do because I cannot sell you to a hiring manager if your resume is all over the place. You
Yeah,
know, so
absolutely.
once you get your resume together, I would run my resume if it were me and I was going through HOH. I'd run my resume through those other AI tracking systems against jobs in the companies that I was interested in. The companies that are actually doing the fellowship. So you go out to their website, you look at different roles out there, and you're not looking at roles to say, hey, I'm going to get hired into that role because you're in a fellowship at the time, you're still on active duty. You're looking at those roles saying, hey, this is something I want to do or an area that I'm interested in. Because there are some people, they'll come through HOH and they're like, you know what? I thought that's what I wanted to do when I got out, but that's not what I want to do. Well, hey, you had the opportunity to figure out that's what that was. And you found out, that's not the life for me. Let me pivot into something different. Or you could end up getting a role at the end of your fellowship, you know. So once again, it's all about doing homework. It's all about putting your best foot forward in the process. Never, never, never take a resume and submit it to 5 different roles and it's the same resume. Every resume has to be tailored specifically for that role. And when we get the data dump from HOH, I'll look at everything. I'll look at the person's resume, I'll look at their LinkedIn profile, and then I'll look at this Excel spreadsheet. And the glaring thing that comes out to me on the Excel spreadsheet is when they say, what area is a veteran interested in? And once again, we're jack of all trades. We put like 7 different areas on there. I'm like, yeah, that's not going to work. Um, I can't,
Yeah.
I can't sell you to 7 different hiring managers based off this resume that you have. I need you to pick one area that you know you're good at. You can even change your resume, which allows me to get a better resume to the hiring manager.
Yeah, and like you said, I can't have a food service resume that's all lining out my accomplishments in food
Mhm.
service if I'm trying to go for like a finance job or something like that. It's not gonna equate, man. They're gonna look at you like you don't even have the skill set. But like you said, you could use these AI tools, and you could have different resumes. It might
Mhm.
sound like, I don't want to do that. I said that to myself, but maybe I lost out on having a different job because I didn't want to do that resume. I didn't want to tailor that resume to a different group of people, right?
Mhm.
Because like the hiring manager for food's not going to be the hiring manager for Activision. So you got to have it on paper. People can, you can get it on paper and look good, but you still got to be able to perform. So don't get out there and just put all this high speed resume together and then get on the phone with Big Mike and you don't even know how to talk or something like that. So like
Yeah.
the resume is great, but like you said, it's all about putting yourself out there, getting the people, networking. Because if someone hit you up on LinkedIn, I'm sure you wouldn't leave them on red. You didn't leave me on red. I'm sure you wouldn't do that to another veteran or another person. Just not how you get down. So just reach out. The worst thing someone could do is not answer or tell you no. Other than
Yeah.
that, most people on LinkedIn, honestly, they're going to point you in the right direction. They're going to get
Mhm.
you in contact with someone that can help you, or they're going to help you themselves. That's what I mean.
Yes. Hey, glad you brought that piece up. Project management.
Okay. Big
Everyone
time.
is
Yeah.
everyone is getting their PMP. My first question I asked them is, okay, you're going to pass this exam. You're going to get this certification. Tell me where you use those principles in your career. Everyone freezes on me. And I say to them, if you think you're going to be a project manager inside of an organization and you can't apply the principles or show how you applied the principles, it's not going to work. You just got a certification, you know. So
Right.
While you're on active duty, when you get these certifications, start working those tools into your current job. So then when you walk into the interview, you can speak to that. You know, I'll give you an example. So I'm a Lean Six Sigma green belt, right?
Okay.
I use the DMAIC principles: define, measure, analyze, improve, control. I got my certification in 2006. Every job after that, I applied those principles. Did I want to be a Lean Six Sigma person the whole time? No. But I wanted to learn how to utilize those principles because they help you come up with better processes. So now when every job that I walked into after that in the army, I would overlay those processes on top of it to make things better.
Okay.
So if I decided that's something I wanted to do when I got out, I could walk the walk and talk the talk. You have to do the exact same thing.
Yeah, because the PM, that's like same thing with IT certs. If you don't have the background, if you haven't put it to use, it doesn't matter. You can go pass the test. You can. And one great thing about the military is you can. It seems like you can get all this stuff paid for while you're on active duty. So don't wait to pay thousands of dollars for a PMP exam or a PMP course. Get it done while you're in. All right,
Mhm.
if you're going to go that route, but like you said, after you get it done, don't just put the friggin' thing on the wall and look at it. Like apply it, man, because you get great money if you're a project manager, honestly, but you got to know what you're doing or else it's not going to work out.
And then if you're going to do project management, figure out what you want to do project management at inside of an organization. Do you want it to be project management, IT,
Right.
HR, all of that? Another thing that's huge that I'm seeing when it comes to veterans. If you get a certification, particularly in IT, and you're doing a pivot and you don't have an IT background, you need to utilize, there's a company called Field Nation, and start using Field Nation to find small jobs because you're going to be an independent contractor to get your experience.
Okay.
Most of the IT jobs, you can get your A plus certification, Security Plus certification, you can get all of that, but they're looking for experience.
Absolutely.
Well, you don't have any of that. You just got the cert. So utilize Field Nation to get that experience, and that will allow you to level up to other roles.
Hey, that's a great. I've never heard of that either. I'm not in the IT sector, but it's a great resource for people out there. There's plenty of veterans that are transitioning and making that pivot because it's a lucrative career. They might be
Hmm.
interested, might be a little bit of both. But I had a friend of mine. He was in the Air Force. He got a bachelor's degree in business. Then he got all his certs. He couldn't get a job, man.
Hmm.
Nice. He got a job processing traffic tickets with
Hmm.
network plus security. That's nothing. That's you don't even need those certificates to do that job, but
Nope.
the prime thing I'm trying to say, I guess, is you gotta get that experience. You gotta have both. You gotta have the experience with the certs. You can't have
Hmm.
one or the other. You gotta have both. So, nah, man. Thanks for sharing that information on that source. What's it called? One more time.
Field Nation.
Field Nation.
Hmm.
Yeah, man. We're learning a lot today. Hopefully, someone out here is going to hear this and they're going to apply this stuff because I mean, at least like 30 or 40% of the veterans I've had on are all they're pivoting to IT, man. You know
Hmm.
what I'm saying? But if you like one of my buddies, sort of like you, he did a fellowship, he did the skills bridge program, but he got on with Boeing.
Hmm.
And I mean, he got a job offer. Now he's in St. Louis and doing his thing, 6 figures a year in St. Louis, not that expensive to live there. Just from being on top of things. So there are plenty of things, like you said, out there for veterans. It's just up to us to use them, and find them and hit them up and reach out and see what they say. So thank you for sharing that.
Oh yeah.
You got anything that you want to touch on in regards to that?
Um, I would say get comfortable with being uncomfortable, and don't take it personal when you get rejected.
Okay.
And I had to learn that from when I was an army recruiter, because not everyone wants to join the army. But I had
Right.
to ask them if they wanted to join. And I
Right.
heard I heard more no's than I heard yeses. So I just took that as a way to say, you know what? If you don't ask, you don't know. So if you don't put that resume in and try to get a role, you don't know. But when you get that email back saying sorry you weren't advanced to the next round, don't take it personal. No, what you might want to try to do is figure out who was a recruiter for that role, and can they tell me why my resume wasn't pushed forward? That's the number one thing. If you figure out what you're doing wrong, it's gonna it will open up your eyes to a whole lot more other things.
Absolutely. What was your favorite place that you've been in the military?
Oh, Germany, man.
What part?
Wiesbaden.
Oh man, I was in Vilsec, man. I was on the bad side of Germany. It was
Well,
still good though, man. I don't know. You still get out and do what you got to do, but I'm just saying, man. Wiesbaden, K Town, all that stuff. Frankfurt, come on, dude. It wasn't even. That's not even up for comparison.
well, Frankfurt wasn't even so Frankfurt is gone now.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of places are.
Yeah,
Yeah, a lot
yeah,
of yeah,
yeah. So the areas that I look at now when it comes to Germany, it's hard for me to go back there and take a look at it because I know what used to be there.
yeah.
So when soldiers PCS over there now, they don't know what's going on. They don't know that it used to be when you walked into this area, there was a concern here, and there's no more concerns.
Right. They're all
So
yeah, it's all gone, man. All the
yeah,
small little spots that like hidden gems. Because I heard of them. I mean, they had one in I think they had one in K Town or something like that. It's like it's not the base, it's just a concern. It's small, maybe have like a little defect, but it's like, dude, hidden gem, man. Vilsec was like a I ain't gonna lie, man. It's damn modern day slavery, bro. Over there, I ain't gonna lie to you, dude. I can't lie, man.
but
Oh man, bro.
Vi-
But it's
Vi-
all good.
Vilsec. So here's what I liked about that area is the Bavarian area.
Oh,
You know,
Bavaria is beautiful. I'm just talking
yeah.
about as far as the military goes. We worked in the DFAC. There's only DFACs, and we always were getting shafted. But that's the life of a cook, man. I can, you know what I'm saying? That's it's. But yeah, Munich's beautiful. Get on the ice
Hmm.
train, ride from Nuremberg to Munich in like 2 hours. Can't go wrong, man. Go to
No.
Oktoberfest. I remember one time we went to Oktoberfest after we went to Afghanistan, and we got recall formation the day after we went to Oktoberfest because someone set off the fire suppression system in the barracks, man. I'm like, another reason why I knew it was time to go. I'm like, dude, I'm down here on like my only couple of days off, and you're telling me if I don't get back before 17:30, I'm gonna have mandatory UCMJ. I'm like, okay, man, all right. Then they took everyone's alcohol. They took everyone. They went because a service member ended up showing Sergeant Major his nuts. Okay, he didn't know it was Sergeant Major, so that's what triggered the whole recall. And it's like you just got mass punishment for someone being drunk in the barracks. And we're like, dude,
Mass punishment is the typical military way. That's
you don't have to deal with that at Microsoft, man. You don't have to deal with that at Activision, man. You guys are good. They're only going to
no,
get you.
you're right. And I the service members that we have, with the former service members, the veterans that we have that work in the company, I said, remember this: no matter what you do in corporate America, nothing involves life, limb, or eyesight. So take some of that pressure that you have on yourself, that you just naturally pulled from the military to corporate America, take it off your back. It's no longer there. If you have people that work for you, they go out and get a DUI, no one's going to call you at 2 o'clock in the morning.
They're not calling. You know what? You know
No.
what a Sergeant Major told me? He said he used to get so mad when he was in when his phone rang because he knew it was bad news. He said it was a hard thing for him to adjust and like get out and have his phone ring and like not like get mad. And he said even his kids noticed it. I'm like, damn, that's crazy, but that's true, man. If you're a first
Mhm.
sergeant major, you're getting called. Hey, we got Joe Schmo at the gate 10 DUI, man. Get out here. You know, it's like
Mhm.
even as the NCO, man, you like they try to make you responsible for all your soldiers. Like, oh, you're a direct reflection of your soldiers are a
Mhm.
direct reflection.
Actually, you.
They have their own free will to do whatever they want to do, man. So how if Joe Schmo wanted to go get a stripper wife, how does that reflect me, man?
Yeah.
You know, but
Hey.
I don't know, man. You know how the safety briefs used to go: don't beat your wife, don't beat your
Mhm.
spouse, don't drink and drive, don't do
Mhm.
this. It's just like it's just monotone, you know. But you gotta love the military, man. You get stories for days, dude. And hey, in regards to Germany, man, let them know what was the like. Okay, let's put it like this: when you travel to Europe or go live in Germany, man, you're not gonna be able to come back to the States and go out, dude. No one's getting shot. You might, you know what I'm saying? Like the
Mhm.
parties go on till 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock at night. So for them people out there looking to reminisce, man, what was your spot back in the day in Germany?
Oh, well, you have to understand, when I was back in Germany, most of the stuff that was there then is not here now.
Okay.
So I would go to the Eagle's Nest. which was on the Wiesbaden Air Base, which was nice. Then you had the Rainbow Club, which was in Darmstadt. Then you had the Top Hat, which was inside of Frankfurt.
Man, you got the whole book, man. Look at you. Yeah, let's go, man.
But you think about it. You're a young 19, 20-year-old, you know, and I think that's what really got me about being in the Army when I first joined. When I went to the recruiter, first thing I told him was, no matter what job I get, I want to go to Germany. I said, because I've heard too many stories. And we didn't have YouTube back then. We didn't
Yeah,
have anything on TV showing us what the life was going to be like. All we had was word of mouth and tribal stories from
yeah,
people who had been, and the only commercial I can ever remember from back then was the Be All You Can Be commercial where the guy jumped out of the airplane, and he was from 82nd.
yeah.
Yep.
You're like, oh no, man, I'm trying to get over to Germany, man. I don't care about this. Nah, man, but that's cool. I love Germany and Europe, and if you're there, take advantage. Get obviously you're gonna have your passport, but like go get on a Ryanair flight, get on the train, get on the ICE train, travel, man. Don't get in line at the DFAC and sit and use your meal card every weekend, man. Like get out and explore, man. You know?
Well, okay, I had a caveat on that. So my roommate and I, we were cheap, so we would make sure we eat breakfast at a
Yeah.
DFAC, then we go downtown and hang out, and we come back and eat lunch. Then we go downtown and hang out, and we come back and eat dinner, and then we go back out. Now
Hey man,
this was
that's not cheap. That's smart, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, they're taking the 323 from you for the BAS, so you might as well use. Hey, get your food, man.
now, granted, this was in the late '80s, early '90s, so different mindset. Because my son who's in now, you know, he's like, I don't really want to eat in the defect. I'm like,
Right,
what's wrong with the defect? I was like, the food is much better now than it was then, but
right.
different era, different generation.
Now you're right. I mean, hey, whatever you do, just do something fun and enjoy yourself and with your
Yeah,
friends and your colleagues over there. So, what would you describe your military service in one word as?
outstanding. And
Fair
and,
enough.
and and here's the reason why I say that. I took every duty station and looked at it as in a positive way, no matter what happened, what life was like, because you're no matter what duty station you go to or what country you go to, there's always something there nice to do. You just have to find it, you know.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, man. So you got, we're gonna, I guess that's it, man. Unless you want to lead us off with anything else. I mean, I feel like you got a wealth of knowledge, a wealth of wisdom that you put out there for everybody to listen to, and hopefully they can divulge and they can learn a couple things. Maybe they reach out. Maybe we hear someone from the military hit you up, to get in that Hiring Our Heroes program, and that'd be awesome, man. Because looking back on it, it'd be awesome to do something like that for the last 3 months of your time in, just pretty much almost set yourself up for success. Possibly get a job option. If not, you get a good network start and see
hmm
if that's something that you want to do. But the ball's in your court, man. If you want to close us out with anything.
Um, Reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm an open book about transitioning and what's going on out here right now.
Okay.
So, yep.
All right. Hey, everyone listening, thank you guys for your time, your consideration, for your service. If you've been in the military, or if you're still in right now, Big Mike, appreciate you coming on, sharing your expertise and your journey throughout the military to civilian life. And we'll catch y'all next time.
No
Appreciate
problem, brother.
y'all.
Have a good weekend.
All right, you too, man. Take care,
All
bro.
right. Bye bye.
See you in Germany.